What's up, everybody? It's your favorite blind boxer's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the man with no fear, Mr. Matt Murdock himself, Netflix's Daredevil from Hot Toys. It's a little bit of an older release, but I figured it was still worth taking a look at. I went ahead and got it with that Sideshow coupon a lot of us got this past month, where it was $50 off your purchase, so made this unit a bit easier of a pill to swallow, so to speak. Not a whole lot to talk about with this guy. Everything's pretty straightforward, including that belt that seems very high up on his abdomen to me, but let's go ahead and get started with the accessories. He comes with an alternate face piece, which I do like, but I don't like all the blood. Even though the blood looks good, I don't, like, I would have probably used this expression. I just don't want my Daredevil all beat up. Like, his suit looks fine, so it's like somebody just hit him in his face. The suit was fine. But anyway, it looks good. The teeth are sculpted beautifully and painted beautifully. They also have a gloss on them, which gives it a very realistic look. The 5 o'clock shadows painted well. The blood has a gloss to it, so it all looks very natural. It's a well done piece. So he comes with the left and right holding hands, as you see here. The left and right relaxed hands, and then the left and right fist hands we saw in the opening footage. And those holding hands work with holding his batons. We have one with the... they're billy clubs. What do they call them? I think he calls them a billy club. I could be wrong about that. But you have one with this like wire piece between the two, and it's cool because you can kind of manipulate the wire to give it a little bit of life. They're all detailed the same way. The entire handle bit is all sculpted with the, like a pattern that you would imagine would be on one, and then they have this silver or chrome, and then it looks like it has a wash on it as well. It looks very good. So you have the one with the wire, the one that's split into two, and then the one where the two are connected. So what more could you ask for? How about a holster for the two to go in? You got that. It's right here, and you can put these in it. We'll take a look at that a bit later on. And then you also have your replacement pieces for the wrist. You get the display base. It has a little bit of gloss on here, which makes it look wet for the sidewalk. And then you have the nice Daredevil kind of logo nameplate there. And then, of course, your two-prong suspension pieces to keep the crotch of the figure in place. You have one more option, which is this piece. Now, this is designed to go at the back. You would remove this and put this here, and then you could pose Daredevil using the two sections, which gives it a little bit more of an interest. Or you could put this in front of him. And once again, it's going to do the same thing, and then you can just extend this. Either way, this is cool. Little pieces of broken glass, I would guess, but that doesn't really look believable. The bricks are painted extremely well, and then the pipe is all painted. There's a little bit of rust around the concrete there. So all of it looks good. I'm not sure why this notch is here, but I mean, I guess it's like maybe a sewer or something. I don't know. Looks very small. It looks a little strange, but the rest of it looks great. And it also comes with a cardboard city backdrop if you want to use that. I don't think that I would necessarily, but it's done well enough. It's printed well enough. It's clean. It's got a little alleyway or a little street there. Cool, I guess. Just not for me. Now, this is obviously a doctored up image, and we're going to go ahead and adjust the head a little bit to kind of give it more of that look, but I feel like it's pretty close to spot on. Maybe the Hot Toys head is a little wide proportionately, but the armor plating and stuff, the color, the sculpt of the face, the cheeks, the nose, the mouth, all seems in line. If I had to pinpoint something that seemed a bit off, it would be that the head seemed a little wide. But looking at the picture that we have to the left, I can't help but think that maybe that's a bit doctored up and his head is naturally a little wider, because as we'll see in this next image, his head looks a little bit wider in that. And speaking of which, I think it all looks pretty accurate. It's funny, when I got this out of the box, I was a little turned off by how high the belt sat on his waist. It just seemed a little much. Like an old grandpa. You know the type I'm talking about. The type that's always pulling their pants up from the back. One of these moves. That's crazy. Now, this might be season 2 or something else. It's hard to find like the exact promotional images from the season and section, but as you can see here, there's some differences in the suit. But the reason why I chose this one is because I honestly, I couldn't find many great ones to begin with. But on top of that, his belt is a little high, so it helped calm me a bit. The material seems to be right. Once again, this one on the left has a little bit more armor. The eye design is a bit different. So this is probably season 2 or what have you, but I think that, but even still, I think that the way that the suit looks, the texture of the suit, the sort of layered look it has, seems to very much be in line with the design of the, character from the show. So let's look at some stylings and soft goods choices. I love the face. I love the like red translucent eyes. Like it looks haunting, which I dig. I love how the helmet has a gloss to it. And then the leather pieces, you know, or the pieces that look more leather tend to look more leather. I love the paint on the face, the 5 o'clock shadow, the difference in textures to, or, you know, pigments in the lips and such. Looks very natural. It looks very good. I do feel like his legs are a little skinny, but I think it's the suit. I think it's just the suit is a little unforgiving. But yeah, I love how the seam of all this, it looks like it covers down into the neck. And then the neck, the soft goods of the neck kind of folds up. It gives a very natural look to it all. The difference between this material and this material looks and feels like different sections that are sewn together. The stitching seems to be more in line, which is one of my complaints with Hot Toys, is sometimes the stitching looks too big, but this looks, you know, right in line with what we would want. So I'm okay with that. The plastic goods like that make up the feet work well. There's dry brushing on the shoes. They give it a worn-in look. The shoes look, I mean, the boots rather, look very tactical. They're sculpted beautifully. I have no issues with that. The silver detailings and such that they added throughout seems to be on point. It's all pretty much made up of these two materials, the black and then the red, and then there's some plastic kind of like help along the way, but it all is done fairly smart. It's just something about this suit that looks a little weird in this size. There is some limitations that we'll get to when we get to articulation, but I think that overall it works quite nicely. I also feel like maybe this thigh holster is a little too low, but you know, once again, small potatoes. Articulation wise, the head is on, I think, a single ball peg there into the neck. Everything is covered down well. I love all the sculpting and stuff in the back, like all the wrinkles and such. You can get the head all the way down to there, all the way up to there, side to side. Look, you know, it's very fluid in that way. So no real issue there. We have an abdominal, why did I say that weird? It's like an abdomen, like an upper abdomen, like a double ball peg. It feels like from the upper chest into the abdomen, and then a single from the abdomen into the pelvis. But the suit is very restrictive. You can get the swivel to about there. This piece is like a shirt, and then this acts more like pants. So it does have some give, but even still, it's a little bit restrictive. So just be aware of that. Forward to there, to the side, back. Like, you can definitely get some movement, but it's not great in that regard. Disc-hinge shoulders, it feels like, with a ball peg that goes into the chest, I would imagine. You can get the shoulder a good amount in front of the chest on that ball peg. The suit does wrinkle up a bit, but it's not too terrible. In this, it gets bad in the hips. We'll talk about that when we get there. Bicep swivel, that works fine. Double jointed elbow, that works fine. Ball hinge wrist, so you can get up, down, and then you can swivel the whole piece around and get in, out, swivel the wrist as need be. The gloves are sculpted beautifully and painted beautifully, so no issues there. The hips are on double ball peg. I mean, the hips are on T-jointed ball pegs, rather. Very limited. To about there. To about there, which is a little absurd. And then you have the thigh swivels around them. That's a problem with the soft goods, limiting the posing of the figure. And that's what sometimes takes these things down a notch for me in the figure department, is they don't much act like a figure. They act more so like a slightly posable statue that has the engineering of a figure. So that's one of those big complaints that I've kind of consistently had with Hot Toys. Some have worked better than others, as we've seen here recently, but this one I would not put as an exception to the rule. Double jointed knee, that works fairly well. You can get it at least back to 90 degrees. And it's, like I said, it's just the soft goods. Like you can see, and I'll see if that can, I mean, it has a little bit of give, but it's the stitching. It's not going to allow you to go much beyond that. And then the feet actually work very well. They're on a double ball peg. It does break the sculpt up a bit, but you can get the ankle down to there, up to there, and then a really good rocker on it. So the feet work tremendously well, which is an issue that not only Hot Toys, but SH Figuarts and Figma and a lot of figures tend to have these days, because everybody's trying to protect the sculpt, and which I get. But unfortunately, it ends up taking its toll on the posability of the figure and the believability and suspension of disbelief in a pose. But these feet, and the same on Punisher from the Netflix, because of the way they've been doing the boots, it works quite well. And then you can just, the nice thing is this piece swivels the upper boot, so once you get the foot in position, you can kind of cover down on the top piece and sort of give that fluidity to it. So all of that works well, and there's the figure from the back. Size comparison wise, there he is with Frankie, and they'll be standing side by side on my shelf as well. My negatives are fairly limited, but pretty straightforward. I think the suit is a little limiting. It hinders the amount of articulation you can get out of him if you wanted a real action pose. And Daredevil is a character that lends himself towards action poses, and the feet on this guy would definitely help you get him in an action pose. But unfortunately, you're not going to be getting him in an action pose because the legs are pretty much at their fullest right there. I also think his belt is a little high. I get that it's accurate, so that's a very subjective complaint, and it may not even be fair to complain about the figure, but whoever's listening from Netflix, drop that belt down a little bit and let him relax. It looks strange. Plenty of positives though. The soft goods are put together well. The seams are proportionate to the body, which is another one of my complaints sometimes, and they seem to fix that. All of the plastic sculpting is done beautifully. All of the paint is done beautifully. There's not a whole lot of accessories, but they all make sense. There is some variation in texture, which gives the figure a lot of depth, and it does have a display presence. So it's a recommend for me, but it's a soft recommend. I certainly wouldn't say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe since the wrap. It's fine, is what it is. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.